Good evening everybody and welcome to the studio this evening. I shall move a bit further to the desk so that the camera can actually pick me up. Excuse me. I've just finished a pizza and I keep having to clear my throat. See if I can get... I know it only works with Windows Live Messenger. Thank you very much. And no, I don't want to install it. Right. So, with my reference picture gone? There we go. That camera is rather blue. Has something been messing around with it? Probably. Since I've been messing around with my PC. That's better. I've been trying to get the Wacom drivers to work properly. My pen wasn't working properly. And possibly hasn't been for since the last driver update, but I haven't really noticed it. Right. Oh, I know I've got hiccups. So I've got some shade up there. Oh dear, excuse me. They will go in a moment. It's either that or it's the drink that I'm drinking that's causing it. So I am just controlling the breathing so that the hiccups go away. And I am hoping that I have actually successfully done that. Because every time I try and clear my throat, it's going to actually cause the hiccups to come back a little bit. But hopefully they will have gone shortly. Now then, what I do need to do is work a little bit on this shadow. It's a bit of an abrupt shadow. It needs to be faded out a little bit. But otherwise it's not too bad. I quite like the look of that. And what I haven't done is change my glasses. Okay, it's been a bit of a hectic Thursday, Friday, and a bit today as well. And everything's at 6s and 7s, as they say. And forgetting to change my glasses is just the least of it. Right, I have a hot tape, and this tool is hot as well. Okay. So what I need to do here is just ease off the high contrast change that you see. It's actually less of a contrast change here. I don't know if it's being... yeah. The camera is obviously having an impact to the lighting as well. Can't get them both right, it seems. Never mind. We'll just deal with it as it is. So effectively just add a little bit of more heat just over the edge of the dark line. It just softens it slightly. Being careful not to take it too far, otherwise you lose the edge that you've got anyway. And I think that's acceptable. It looks more like a shadow now than just a sharp edge. I think we may need to do some more work around there and possibly up on the forehead, but we're going to carry on with working here out from the eye towards the ear. Let me just turn that fan off for a moment, or for a while anyway. Okay, I'll work out towards the forehead. And just then around here we then get into the long hair of the mane. So don't want to do too long lines because then it actually simulates long hair, and of course at this point on the line the hair is not particularly long, quite short fur, so I don't want to make it look long. So when I come to doing the mane, if I do it using this style, I'll actually be doing quite long lines. Well, I haven't decided. I might just try sort of an under painting technique and see if that's sufficient. And if it is, then I won't do the fur technique over the top. But if it isn't, then we'll be doing fur technique over the top. Again, as I'm doing this, trying to make sure that I don't start lines in the same place every time, because we get a slightly dark mark and they'll join up to form lines basically, or, that are right angles to the actual hair. Individual little bits of marks aren't a problem. After all, it's natural hair. They're not. It's not 100% uniform colour, so some marking is perfectly acceptable. You just don't have lines. That's not doing too bad. Yeah, I am. Just for the minute then, I was wondering whether it's actually streaming or just recording this. It is actually streaming, I'm glad to say. Yeah, that's not doing too bad. Sorry, I'm leaning forward, I guess, towards the camera, but what I'm doing is the light is actually glaring back at me. Let me just see if I can move it a little bit. It's reflecting off the board and making it difficult to see the actual work that I'm doing. Now, working in a roughly radial pattern coming out from the eyes. Yep, that looks okay. This is actually what I could do with some large studio lights that are not too warm and light up everything around so that I don't actually have to have this one light right in front of me or over the top. It's providing enough light for the camera, but it does make what I'm actually doing here a little bit difficult. When I'm not working, when I'm not using the stream, and when I'm working but not on the stream, I tend to have the light more off to one side. So any reflection is bouncing off to one side. Here it's bouncing almost straight at me. But if I move it this side, then it's shining directly in your eyes. And if I move it to one side, then the shadows kick in and make certain things difficult. See, the things I go through for you guys. Yeah. So yes, I am really putting in each individual hair that you're seeing on the image here, one at a time. Now, of course, while I'm doing that, I'm not actually doing as many hairs as there would be on the actual cat. And there will be tens of millions, I presume, or one heck of a lot anyway. And what I'm doing here is just a representation of that many. I'm not about to do tens of millions, but each I didn't get that hair off fast enough. This technique of actually creating slight grooves in the wood with the heat, which gives that very much sort of gives a very good fur looking texture. It does require that every hair of that texture is actually individually created. So each back and forth movement you see me making is actually creating a single hair. And by keeping the hair length short as it is on the real cat and layering it, you actually get what looks like real fur, because real fur is layered. Of course, strictly speaking, to be truly accurate with layering, I should start at the end and work towards the tip. So on a cat, most of the hair direction is from the nose to the tail, so you ideally work the other way, because the hair on the front lays on top of the hair that's behind it, and so on, like a deck of cards that's fallen over. But in most cases you can't actually tell a difference as long as you do sort of layer it. You can't actually tell, generally speaking, with pyrography which way it's been done. MTS Wood passes some coffee. I could do with some, thank you very much, MTS. That would be very kind of you. I do have, however, imitation champagne instead. But the coffee would be really nice. I do enjoy I was going to say a good latte. I was going to say, unfortunately, good ground coffee is relatively expensive over here. So I don't tend to drink too much of it, unfortunately. But I do drink a particular brand over here of instant coffee most of the time, and latte when I can get my hands on it. Luckily, actually, our local supermarket does, because we have one of these loyalty cards, you get free coffee, so I can sort of from time to time drop in there and get a free coffee. But I also do drink tea. For some reason at the moment, whether it's psychological or not, after 6 PM local time the coffee tastes really weak to me, even if I make it exactly the same. So I'm drinking tea after 6 o'clock and coffee beforehand. Yeah, coffee. Coffee's odd. Well, no, it's not odd. Coffee's really nice, but there are times, and I wish I could do it every time, where I don't know if it's the exact amount of coffee I've put in instant coffee. This is into the cup, well, a mug. I use a pint mug. That's a UK pint, not an American pint. I know we're the same, aren't they? It's gallons that are different. The water presumably is at the same temperature. It must be just occasionally when I hit it just at the right temperature when I'm drinking it, and it is absolutely, and you kind of wish I had a never-ending supply at just that point. And other times it's not quite so good. Yeah, I actually use I actually use an instant water kettle. You know, one of these that you push a button, it's cold water at the back. You push a button, and out comes hot water. But it only heats it to about 80 degrees, which is what I understand is ideal for coffee. It doesn't actually boil the water. So it's not so much that. Although I'll quite happily believe you. It's I don't know. I call it a bite. It's just right, and it's not strength or necessarily even flavour as such, but it's just that perfect point. Nescafe Classica. I drink Gold Blend, Nescafe Gold Blend, which is one I prefer. The one I prefer. Of course, when it comes to fresh ground coffee, I have no idea, to be honest, what it is or what blend of beans it is, but they're all good. It's a I've not had Classico, but a lot of the Nescafes I find to be really they're not strong, but they taste strong to me. But the Gold Blend is, well, I suppose it's just I've forgotten what the two beans are. One of them has a softer flavour and the other has a more harsher flavour, doesn't it? And so it's I guess it's more towards the softer, smoother taste rather than the yeah. No, I don't have a brewing machine. It's kind of like it would be a nice thing, but when you sort of, I'm a cheapskate. When you buy this, or if you buy this great big bag of beans, and then sort of, you know, a fifth of it goes in one grinding into a coffee. It's kind of like big bag, you know, small. I'm a cheapskate. I think quite often with things like instant coffee, it's a bit of snobbery. If people think it's instant coffee, then they're always, you know, it's, oh, I don't like this. But I'm almost certain, personally, I probably couldn't tell the difference. I could tell if it wasn't the blend of coffee that I like, obviously, but whether it was instant or freshly brewed, I probably wouldn't know the difference. Yeah. Yeah, you do. I was going to watch you. You do tend to slurp it quite a bit. I drink about 4 pints a day generally of coffee. One first thing in the morning about lunchtime. Then I'll probably get one about 3 o'clock, and then just before 6, if I get the chance. But oh, and thanks for the favourite on the shop, by the way. That was very kind of you. You like to get, yeah. Well, no, it's okay. I mean, thanks very much. I mean, you know, just in with things like that, it's, yeah. I mean, if you didn't like it, I wouldn't want you to favourite it just, you know, for the sake of it. I mean, you know, if you don't like it, feel free to unfavourite it. I'm not after people doing this just because, but you know, if people do favourite it, it sort of helps other people discover it and more traffic and things like that. So thank you for doing it. Trenta, hello, welcome and good evening. Okay. No problem, MTS. You know I can take it. I'm a big boy. Talking of liking work, are you broadcasting today? You're a very busy person, yeah. At the moment, I kind of know the feeling. I think I mentioned it. I'm trying really hard to get a website up and running so that I can sort of just, well, there'll be a shop there as well. But what I want to do is get some pages up which have got things like this on, and we'll just have this is what I've done. It's how I've done it. What just some more information about the different arts and things like that. As well as the shop, but it's just I get about 20 minutes a day to try and do something in there when I finish streaming, or I finish work and then I've got to make tea and then you pay the bills and it's just really hard. As you say, busy. I'm also trying to clear a very large area because we want to have some building work done so I can have a new studio, and bidding jobs, interviewing roommate. You have been busy. Yes. And it's I'm always tempted to stay up late as well, and I mean ultimately that ends up with being counterproductive. It's okay for a little bit, but then it becomes counterproductive, and you end up having not having even less time if you try and stay up too long for me. New studio sounds fun. Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to it. My studio at the moment, effectively, you can see just about the limits of my studio on the camera now. This is about the only free space I've got. I've got an A3 printer sat to the side of me there. I've got a big Cintiq drawing machine sat there. Behind me would be where I do some airbrushing, but it's a storage space at the moment because this is now my studio space, and I'm in sort of effectively I've got about 4 foot square here. The new studio is going to be about 15 foot by 17 foot, and I actually don't quite know what I'm going to put in it yet. Yeah. It took me. Etsy sounds really quick to set up, but it actually takes quite a long time. Can you kick your wife out? It's kind of more the other way around. I'd probably want to take over the relative's house and get her to stay here, but yeah. Yeah, we're converting a big garage. When I say a big garage, my room is a third of it. Yeah, I must take a closer look at your shop. It looked fascinating to look at. I had a quick look, and I must take a closer look. I must actually also get on with this. I have a tendency to stop when I'm talking. Yeah, once you get the pages up, the products up, you then discover this, things like the about page, the shop page, the terms, your terms and conditions page. Then there's the shop welcome message. Then there's things like the shipping profiles, which it tells you about after you've already set up shipping, and it's kind of like, why didn't you tell me about that earlier? Then there's categories. And there's something else. Oh, the banner. And there is something else that I've not done yet, and I'm trying to think what it is, but yeah, it just keeps going on. And I've got to replicate all of that, sort of replicate that on the website. Not exactly the same, but the same sort of thing. I'm kind of getting used to it. It sort of... Okay, I guess they... Thanks, Moobot. I guess they kind of want you to get your products up, and then they tell you about everything else, but and they sort of don't really give you access to them until you've got your first, I think it's 10 products or something like that, or first few anyway. But yeah. This is the first time I've tried it, so I don't know what it's like before. Of course, it started in America, didn't it? So yeah, that's fantastic. All of mine have been private sales so far. Nothing to do with broadcasting at all, or even Etsy. I mean, Etsy I didn't expect. I expected that to take a long time to build, and the views are building slowly. And at some point, we'll sell something through there. But yeah, all mine have been people at work and stuff like that. But 1 month, you do, yeah, fantastic. I'm surprised that it's taken that long, to be honest. With the stuff that you do, is it's quite a dynamic and visual thing, which I'm surprised more people haven't taken you up on. Of course, because it's a I'm not denigrating anything here. It's a relatively quick art form, in that there's big changes go on. I mean, I know when you're doing your smoothing and shaping, you're not changing a lot, but it looks like there's a lot going on, and people love watching that sort of stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I think I recall you mentioning it on the stream the other day. I'm also relatively, shall we say, conscientious. So there's things like well, like this, for example, this particular bracelet I'm wearing here. This is one I made for me. I've made this from sterling silver rings, but I can't sell it, or rather I can sell it, but I can't sell it to you as sterling silver. I have to sell it to you as silver metal, because it's not hallmarked. And to get it hallmarked cost me quite a bit of money, to be honest, which I'm not prepared to do at the moment. And you kind of, I don't think people particularly want to buy a silver metal bracelet, especially at the price that you have to charge. But that's actually a sort of both a UK and international law that says this has to be hallmarked if I want to sell it as sterling silver. And yet you see quite a lot of sellers even on places like Etsy or eBay, which are selling they're doing just that, and it's actually it's actually a criminal offence. So there's prison involved if they wanted to take it that far, but Oh, a table as well. You're not a stupid American. A hallmark, as far as I know, you have them in the US as well. But in the UK, what we have three. Well, it's basically a hallmark is a guarantee of the metal, the quality of the metal, and what the metal is that's being used to construct the item, whatever it is. And it consists of a maker's mark, and it consists of something called an assay office mark, and then other markings that say whether it's silver, sterling silver, or whether it's gold or whatever. But the assay office is in the UK a royal charter, but basically they are the only people, if you like, that are legally able to say yes, this is sterling silver or whatever I claim it to be. So that's what it. But generally speaking, what you see it in as if you look on rings, or you'll see it quite often more clearly than on things like this. But anything that claims to be silver, sterling silver, or claims to be gold, generally it will have like a stamp, and it's often quite tiny, so about 1/4 of an inch, stamped into it, as say, containing at least 2 or 3 pieces of information: who made it, the assay office that guarantees it is what it is, and something that says what it is. Yeah. But they're, in the UK, I think, I can't remember if there's 3 or 4. I think there's 4 they're the only people in the UK that can do that. But it seems like it costs £20, which would be about $30. If you were sending one piece in, it costs you about £20 to $30 to have it hallmarked, so it's expensive stuff. You can get yourself a stamp. I mean, obviously it's metalwork. You can get a stamp made, but to use it would actually be a criminal offence, punishable by a term of imprisonment or a hefty fine. But yes, what you have to do is you have to register with one or more, but assay office in the UK. Each one is separate. They're completely separate organisations. If you register with 2, it's like doing it twice. So you probably wouldn't want to do that. But you register with them. You pay a fee to do that, and then you pay a fee to have them make a stamp. And they're the only ones that are legally allowed to make them for assay stamping. And then they hold that stamp for you, and then what you do is when you want a piece to be hallmarked, you send them the piece or pieces. They will do these do chemical checks. They use lasers now and fancy gear, so they don't damage it anymore. But they will then check that this is, for example, what I say is sterling silver or gold, and if they agree that it meets at least whatever standard I've said it is, they will then stamp the piece using my stamp. So it's yeah. Yeah, but it takes something. I mean, something like this sterling silver. I don't actually know. It'd be something like in you. What would it be in dollars? I don't know. Let's say $150. You're then making it something like $180. You know, just to have the hallmark. If I was making a lot, I mean, this is the weird thing: is that large fee is what they call a consignment fee, and it doesn't matter whether there's one piece in there or 1,000. On top of the consignment fee, you then pay something like about 20 cents to actually, on top of the consignment fee, to have it actually hallmarked. So it's all right if you're sending in 100. If you're sending in one, though, that's when it gets expensive. Yep. Captain Derby, hello, welcome, good evening. Now that your chat works, well, I'm glad it works. Nice to see you again this evening. But yeah, there's just all sorts of stuff. It's things like as well. I don't know what the rules would be in the States, but in the UK, in theory, even though I'm selling on Etsy, I have to show compliance with the payment card industry, the PCI standards, in order for anybody to pay me with a credit card. Even though I never touch it, I never see it, I never have anything on it, because it's my shop, I hold that responsibility. And that means basically filling in a large questionnaire. And it's the same for selling on eBay or things like that. And again, that's something that a lot of people don't do. Okay, is that Bob Ross character? I gather something's going on Bob Ross wise on Twitch, but I've been out of the loop for a few days, Captain Derby. Although I have seen some tweets from Bob Ross to do with programming. Most people don't do it. Yeah, and I'm. Yeah. I don't know if I'm just nervous because Murphy, if I don't do it, somebody's going to come knocking on the door, you know. Yeah. Yeah, I suppose in a way, MTS they are making a fortune, but I mean, Bob has been a subject in creative now. He generally comes up in most streams at some point, I think. Yeah, that keep good records, isn't it? That's probably what I mean. At the moment, I mean, sort of definitely on the negative side. All the setup costs and material costs. I'm definitely on the tax efficient side at the moment. You've been watching it most of the day. Well, I guess I'm going to have to take a look at this at some point, Captain Derby. Yeah, indeed. He has indeed. And quite often in my streams I live by the happy accident. Oh, they got a they got a subscribe button. Ah dear. Hello, Fluffy Twiglet. That's not one I know, MTS. I mean, Bob Boss is somebody I came to relatively late, shall I say, because whilst I was interested in sort of art and creative as a young kid, it kind of went away for a while, and I came back into it when I was probably 40-ish, and that's when I do I Fluffy. Well, maybe I shall watch it after the stream tonight then. I'm trying to think. Oh, this is the Zygons tonight. Is it Zygons? Yeah. We had people, sort of things like Tony Hart and in the UK, and who did sort of the children type things. I've seen some of the trailers, Fluffy Twiglet, so Neil Buchan from Art Attack is one that's a bit late. And yeah, I'm a bit old to have seen that one, Captain Derby. Yeah, things like Vision On and Take Heart. No, we haven't. We've never. It does take a bit of getting used to. That's assuming MTS. You're talking about the fellow whose name has escaped me. Because I'm not sure states-wise whether you're one series behind. What's his name? Come on, Fluffy Twiglet. What's his name? Or Captain Derby, for that matter. I'm trying to think of what this latest fellow is called. Peter Capaldi. That's the guy. Thank you very much. William Hartnell. Oh, you got me there, MTS. Yes. Ah, dear. Yes. Yes, even though I'm 50 odd, I don't remember William. Dear. Who's the first one? I think the first one I actually remember seeing is you know, whenever you try and remember somebody's name like that, normally I'd be able to come out and say it straight away, and now I'm trying to remember his name and I can't. Yeah. I mean, I go back a fair while, but John Pertwee. John Pertwee is the one. Is the first one I remember actually watching, and I think I've probably seen most of them since then. Not I don't think at one point I wasn't so fantastic that I'd watch every single series, but I think I've got a feeling they're doing a new series, MTS, but I'm not actually sure about that. I think I've kind of seen something, but it might have been a different Sherlock rather than the more modern one. Because he sort of comes back. I only watched the first series, and it didn't quite. It was all right, but it didn't grab me, so to speak. Hello, Aldel H. You hate the two-parters. The last two-parter was okay, but it was kind of like two stories that came together, which was quite good. But yeah, no, I know what you mean in that way, Fluffy Twiglet. But then otherwise, they wouldn't be so good if they compressed it down into one. I mean, they used to. Do you remember, Fluffy, when they used to be it used to be one long story over about 4 weeks? I ought to get back to doing some more of this. Fascinating as things like Doctor Who and other people are. Anyway, how are you doing with your art, Fluffy Twiglet? And I hope you're feeling better, by the way. This looks a little bit light. I can see that an edge down there, and it's a little bit too light. I need it to be a little bit darker. It wants to be lighter because at this point the fur starts to splay out a little bit as it starts to come up to go out around the mane. And with light coming in straight on his face, these edges will be a little bit lighter, but it's a little bit too soon on the face. I kind of would love to sort of watch the filming of these things or read the scripts before they broadcast, that is. Not that interested afterwards. Yeah, and I bet you absolutely love bread, don't you? Have you tried? Well, just as a matter of interest, there are obviously lots of different breads, and there's some gluten-free bread, which may have an impact on things like that. I was not gonna make a comment. Yeah. Claire, good evening. Oh, I'm Bat Humbug with trick-or-treaters. MTS, yeah. I know it's an American thing, but it's an American thing. I'm in England. Trick-or-treaters. And good evening, Mad Bat. Indeed it is. But there again, I'm hiding in the studio, so... Yeah, lock the door, close the curtains, turn the whole lights off. Bar humbug. Yeah, well, MTS is in the States, you see, and that's where it originated, all this trick-or-treat stuff. To us, it used to be Mischief Night, didn't it? In November the 4th. Yeah, maybe I ought to do a few sort of photorealistic images and you know, have a bit of a growling sound going on. Yeah, but when you went over there, you tried your best to be different. That's why you drive on the opposite side of the road. Isn't it? I mean, trick or treat, you have the Thanksgiving and, you know, all these weird holidays. Ah, dear. Well, that and they save money on sweets for the next 2 days, Captain Derby. I mean, I don't know if you eat them much. I don't, but they're not the cheapest of things to go out and buy these days. You know, in my day, I can remember, halfpenny chews, not 10p chews, or halfpenny chews that were sort of small bricks, and those flying saucer things where you used to get sort of like 10 for a penny. Ah, dear. Oh, that's a pity. Put headphones on. Yeah, put headphones on. Then play some not overly loud music, because obviously you don't want to damage your hearing, but just enough so that you don't hear things. And flying saucers, rice paper and sherbet. I mean, admittedly, it was cheaper to go out and buy rice paper and something like one of those licorice sherbet dip things, but the cats like to get. Now that's naughty of them. What, MTS? The kids or the cats? I quite like flying saucers. Used to like space rocks as well. You young'uns probably have no idea what I'm talking about. Yeah, something like that. The yellow thing with the that looks like sort of a gelignite stick with a licorice sticking out the end of it. Licorice fountain or something, that's right. You bite the top off the licorice, it's like a straw. You could suck the sherbet out of the thing. And that always used to be the trick, to be able to suck all the sherbet out of the packet before the licorice either blocked up or got too gooey that it didn't work. Nostalgic sweets. And I can remember when curly whirlies were a foot long. At least a foot long. Not sort of 6-inch things that they are these days. You've nearly gone off sweets. I actually prefer something like raw cauliflower to sweets most of the time. Choosing, yeah. That's one thing I am glad about. We don't have that many guns around in the UK. You sell them at work. What, the fireworks or the sweets? Curly whirly. Oh yes. It's a soft toffee covered in chocolate, but it's like a lattice pattern. NH Street Art, good evening and thank you very much for following. Welcome to the studio. Yep, they're the ones. They're the ones, Claire. Thank you very much. Raw veggies. Yeah, there are some that I prefer cooked. Potatoes, for example. But cauliflower, broccoli, mushrooms, cabbage, as well as the obvious ones like lettuce and stuff like that. Fizzy shit, yeah. Of course, as kids, you used to see who could take the whole packet and empty it into your mouth. And spinach. I've never tried raw spinach, and I'm not that keen on it cooked. But my wife loves spinach. She actually prefers it spanakopita, Crete or Greek dish, which is spinach. I'm assuming you're meaning old school pyrography? Old school? Is there a new school? Unless you're talking about people doing it with like stamps and things these days, but I just prefer this style of doing it. Wouldn't want to cook salad. Some people do actually, or at least just warm it. Which one is it? One of the sort of famous salads, and I'll make it up like the Waldorf salad, is warmed, but I can't remember. Yeah, MTS, both really. What I will often do is, if I've got an idea of something that I'd like to do, like a line, what I'll do is one of two things. I'll either go looking for images, which I'll then use as references, and just draw my own, which is what I did with this one. So I sort of look for a few and sort of didn't quite see something that I'd like, so I drew my own basically. And I'm sort of, again, still referring to some of the reference pictures that I used, which helped me with some of the shading and fur direction and things like that. But I'll sort of work from mainly from that sort of image and work from there. But occasionally, some of the things like when I did the engine, this thing, for example. When I did that was an image. I found one I like. It's kind of like with something like machinery or a building. I can draw it, but it's kind of like it's going to look almost exactly like the image that I'm using for references. So quite often I'll just use the reference images. But with something like a lion, there's so much variability that different lighting and things like that I will usually draw my own and work from that. And I don't feel comfortable with taking somebody else's photograph, if you like, of an animal or something like that, and copying it basically. It just doesn't feel right. Something like the engine, and that the original of that actually came out of Train Simulator. There was a snap from Train Simulator. It's a sort of picture that everybody takes, if you see what I mean. That I don't feel quite so bad about. Why would you want warm salad? Why would you want a cold one? Yeah. Thank you very much, MTS. Yeah, I did get the opportunity once to, well, couple things, to pet a lynx, a full-size lynx, and they sort of, they're stood about 3 foot, when they sit down, if you like, they're about 3 foot odd tall. So they're quite large, but I did get the opportunity to pet a young, I think it was I can't actually remember if it was a leopard or a tiger now. Really can't remember. But yeah, quite a young one. It was chewing on a plastic water bottle at the time, but he actually got it actually was quite happy for you to stroke its tummy. But I tell you what, I would not have wanted it to clamp its jaws on me. That's for sure. Yeah, no, I don't like. So some other artists' work. It's. I wouldn't particularly enjoy people doing it to me. So, don't mind people using it. Like this and doing their own version, doing it, a different. Fine, no problem with that. But straight copies. Thanks, Aldel H. Nearly. Again towards the ear, and I think I want to. Yeah, let's just fade this fur out a little bit as we come. So I'm not gonna put fur textures in here. It's kind of far enough away for it to look more smooth. Here, you actually sort of seeing the fur. It's close enough to the viewer to see it. As the fur on the nose is so fine anyway and short that I'd be hard pressed to try and represent it. And this bit here is basically it's his other eyebrow and part of his head. But with it being far enough away, I'm not gonna put fur texture into that. I'm just going to sort of lose it in this area. We're just about the point here where we now start coming up into the mane. Thanks, MTS. That's kind of you. Okay, now then, this area here is main, and we've got the ear around here. Now the inside fur of the ear is really fine, smooth hair, but then we've got lots of basically fluffy hair. I think the idea of the fluffy hair, that's hard to say. It's as bad as fluffy twiglet. Fluffy hair in the ears, same with the cats, is to keep things out of them, to be honest, keep bugs out of them. So that it's sort of all random, but quite, it's not sort of very tightly packed fur, of course, because the cat wants to be able to hear through it. So that's maybe with a bit of tweak, maybe do a bit more tweaking at some point, but that's the main focus of the face done. There's a lower jaw to do, and on at least a couple of the references there's sort of fairly whitish hair, so I'm debating quite what to do in respect to that. I've got a couple of ways of treating it. One is to still apply pyrography, but make it very light pyrography, and then by contrast it will look whitish. And or the other is to actually apply pyrography and then to scrape out the fur, so it then appears white. And I might do that because what I'm also considering is whether or not to actually make the background dark or even black, you know, this sort of dark, so that the head then comes out. So it's again a bit like a night shot, which is why I haven't done anything down here yet. I'm not really decided what to do. Yeah, I love those twiglets. They are, I don't know what they're coated with. It's some sort of beef extract or something like that. I won't say I'm addicted to them, that's not true, but let's say packets don't last very long when I open one. But I actually end up sucking twiglets until the taste is gone. Then I sort of crunch what remains. Is it Marmite? Marmite's brown though. I thought twiglets were black. They're more like a Bovril. Two answers to your question: never and often. MTS. From the point of view, do they wear out? No, they don't. They don't wear out. That's strictly not true. But to all intents and purposes, they don't wear out. If I turn this up really hot, so it glowed, then it would have a tendency to soften and bend, and basically deteriorate that way. And if I was catching using it like that on the wood a lot, then I get a lot of residue build up on the tip, and if it cooks really hard on there, it won't come off very easily. I'll actually have to file it off, and filing it would eventually destroy the tip. I don't use it that hot, so to all intents and purposes these tips will last indefinitely. But to give you the question of changing often, is there are different shapes and types of tips. This one is called a shader. It's called a flat shader because it's flat. This is a writing tip. It's called a writing tip. There are different writing tips. This particular one is a writing tip. It's wire. It's not been flattened at all. And so when I'm using this, I can use it like like a fountain pen, a broad nib fountain pen. So if I'm writing, I get that calligraphy style, where you get thin and thick areas. Or I can use it just as a straight drawing pencil. And then there's ones like this other one I've got on the machine here. This also is a flat shader, but it's a larger one, so it basically will work over a larger area. And certain things work better with one than with another. So it's both. It's a bit like you picking your chisels up depending on just what you want to do. Different ones, or when you change to a scraper type of idea. The Toxic Shot. Good evening, welcome, and thank you for following. I don't particularly like Marmite, but I love Twiglets. Because Marmite is yeast extract and Bovril is beef extract, so. They both have yeast extract, similar taste. Okay. Yes. Yes. All your questions I'm answering with yes and no, MTS. Yes, it plugs into a. Let me just loosen that off. I'll show you both of these are plugging into that box there. So this one is got two outputs with just a switch between them. Nothing particularly fancy. This controls the current, not the. Indirectly it controls the heat, but if on this pen setting 5 is warmish, shall we say, if I use the writing tip that I had a minute ago on that same setting, on setting 5, this would start to be glowing orange. So this one would be glowing orange at that setting. This one is it's hot, but is nowhere near that. And then yes, this is plugged into the mains. So the actual output of this is about 1.5 volts, same as a torch battery. And in case anybody asks, no, you couldn't use a torch battery; it would go flat too quickly. Your torch battery will supply about an amp. This is supplying about 10, so your torch will go flat really quickly. Yeah. I did have a piece of ash around, but I'll if I use the back of this. So this one you can use in different ways. So I can use it like a stamp to create. Actually, you can create quite nice petal shapes with this. I shall have to turn it up a little bit. If I tip the tip up, then I can create fine lines, because what I'm doing then is using just the edge. I can also turn it over and create those same fine lines, but it actually, just the way it is, it just comes out finer, because now instead of being at an angle where I'm catching, well, you know what it's like, here I'm just purely working on the width of the tool itself. So I can create really fine lines, and so whilst I took that all the way dark, with a shader, I can shade areas. Ash takes a lot more heat to colour it, so I have to turn the temperature up on this. So I can do that, and the other pen, the other shader I've got on me here. This one just works over over a larger area, and again this one needs more heat. It's not a fantastically good demonstration because, to be honest, you kind of have your favourite tools for doing particular jobs, and but this one will, you can use this one on its edge. It doesn't. This one doesn't work as well because of the larger area, and this tool doesn't heat up as evenly as the other one. So this one has a hot spot on this side of the tool, whereas this side is cooler. And this is just one of those characteristics that you sort of learn about the tools. If I use that side, I can do that. If I use the other side, I get burn marks. The right hand side is hotter than the left. Now if I turn that heat down and I just swap this pen out, I can show you. Oops, sorry about that. Actually, let's turn this up a bit, and I should be able to do here and go. Nope, need a bit more on this. I can use it like that. Yeah, just as in your line of work, the different woods react differently. Ash, ash is a pain in the neck for me, all round. As you wouldn't have necessarily known that, but as I said, I kept turning the heat up. It doesn't cook as well, which in some ways, means that it doesn't. It can be good, the fact that it doesn't cook as well, and I have to sort of do multiple passes or slow down or use a lot higher heat, because what it means is I can build up colour more slowly. So I can do it fairly. I'm using completely the wrong pen to do shading with, but I'm using it like a pencil. And the grain has an immense effect on this. But I've got sort of a light effect there, and yet if I go over it again, it gets a bit darker. And if I go over it again, it gets a bit darker still. And so what I can do is I can take my time, and I can build up the shade. And then I've decided that actually what I'd like is a really dark line underneath. I can do it. So you can play about with it. Sorry, it just reminded me of a tall ship. So the sort of marks I was making. So let me get rid of that pen and I'll just plug this one back in, but I'm going to switch back. I'm not quite sure which is my favourite shade at the moment. Probably this one, but See, if I did at this temperature, if I did this on the birch plywood, it would be going black now. And here I'm just barely colouring the wood. But then I can go back over and apply more. So it does have the advantage that you can do that because it takes the colour slowly. You've got more chance to lay out and you don't have to work fast. If I was trying to do this as on the birch plywood at this temperature, I'd have to be working at this sort of speed, just so that I didn't actually get colouring, get dark marks on that wood. So that's why on that wood I have to turn the temperature down. But swings and roundabouts. But the grain on here, you might have seen me having a bit of a problem with the grain. If I do this, you'll actually see. If you can see it, but the grain is colouring faster than the stuff in between, and a strong grain like you've got in ash, that's a problem. Birch of course doesn't have that strong a grain structure, so now we're into metaphysics, are we? What do you think? Pocket's an expert. You've got people that are supposed to be able to do remote viewing, psychic episodes, out of body episodes. That's all supposed to be consciousness operating independent of your body. Yeah. If I do pyrography on pine MTS, a similar sort of effect works. Never tried the sandblasting. It's an interesting idea. If you do it on pine, then the softer stuff between the ridges shrinks away from the pen an awful lot. So you end up with sort of really valleys and peaks. The same sort of idea as you were talking about there with sandblasting, but not necessarily as pronounced. You do get some browning, but that when you're trying to pyrograph pine is one of the challenges, shall we say, to get an even colour, because the softer stuff shrinks away and stays light, and the harder stuff of course goes dark, and so you're trying to get in the grain structure with a pen to try and keep the colour consistent across it. Yeah. But sandblasting wood is an interesting idea. I've actually thought a couple, because I do I can do glass engraving, which I generally use one of these with a dental bit in the end. And I've thought about sandblasting for a while, because I've got an airbrush, so I've got the air source. I just need to have some sort of enclosure to keep the grit from going everywhere. What an interesting idea. I never thought of trying it on wood. Yeah, by all means, please. Oh, actually, just a minute, MTS. Before, in fact, let's make it easier. There we go. Moobot knows about you now, MTSC. Should be okay. Yep, no, you go ahead. Wow. Oh, yeah, I can understand you needing to complete it first because otherwise you destroy your sandblasting effect afterwards. That's that's really nice. I'm guessing that they've probably done some of that, carefully following that through by hand. But that's really nice. Is that? I never. Whilst I thought about trying, mainly on glass, but never thought about it on wood. And if I had, I wouldn't. That's not what I would have thought about. That is a beautiful beautiful piece. So when are you trying that MTS? It's weird, isn't it? You'll sand it before you sandblast it. The purpose of which is partly to make it rough. I do like the irony sometimes in some of these things. I'm having some trees cut down shortly, and I am thinking about maybe keeping some slices or some small branch, sections of small branches. They're just common old garden sort of pine type, various pine things. So there's nothing fancy in the wood, but I'm sort of toying with the idea. Okay. Claire, you sound like you're setting me up for something there. But you actually do mean a tiny cut. Wow, that is fantastic. That actually is, yeah. I am surprised that if that's what you were doing today, I'm not surprised that the odd firework was causing a problem. I cannot imagine how on earth you managed to avoid tearing off that word. Yeah. You were the other day when you were doing that inside of that bowl, and you kept partly clearing out the stuff, clearing the debris out of it, and partly feeling the. And I know you cut it so it was smooth, but I kept thinking it only needs a slightly rough bit of wood on there, or a splinter, just to catch. And you were giving me the EBGBs a little bit, and I know you know what you're doing, and therefore it was safe. It's like when I'm using the knives and the chisels, because I know what I'm doing. It looks hairy, but it's safe. But it was giving me the chills. In some ways, I'd love to have a wood lathe, and try. I sort of thought about it. I'm kind of the person that doesn't want to do it twice. So I don't want to buy a cheap lathe, and I kind of want a versatile. I was on about it being a cheapskate earlier on, but when it comes to things like a lathe, I'd probably want one where I can turn the headstock, for example, the drive head, the chuck, so that it comes over the side, so you can do some really large pieces as opposed to being limited by the bed height and that sort of thing. So I'm sort of go the other way when I'm with equipment. I don't cheap out on them, but I'd want to buy something like that, even not knowing whether or not I'd like doing it or not, which is weird. Ah, okay, yeah. They're really good. They're really good, Claire. Have you started selling them yet? Yeah. 3 centimetres by 3 centimetres. Okay. The only problem with buying a used one MTS is, I think, with buying used equipment, especially like that, you need to know what you're doing, and as a beginner, you don't. I mean, I know, the bearings are an important part of that, and the fact that the headstock is central and the bed isn't twisted or bent. And I wouldn't have the experience to know, and so you could end up with sort of a very expensive mistake. And that's kind of what worries me a little bit about buying second-hand things. You got a high-end, reasonably. They're kind of all about the same price, but I must admit, this one is obviously more expensive, as you worked out. But part of that is because there's an extra switch and an LED in it, and a socket, because that's all that. It's more expensive to have two outputs on it, and literally, whilst I haven't opened this, I know all it is a switch and a socket and an LED, and it's a relatively expensive add-on, but it is kind of nice to just have the switch to throw between the two. But generally speaking, though, they're all about the same sort of price. And the reason I picked this one, and it may well be slightly more expensive, is literally because of the pens and the fact that I can unplug them just that easily. Actually, that one's tightening up. I actually don't like these sockets for this. These are audio sockets. They're not meant to be carrying 10 amps of current, and they get warm because of it. But it works. But I got them because of these pens. A lot of the other pens were wired cables, or the other ends had to be, you had to use a screwdriver to change the pen. And you've seen me use 3 pens tonight, and it would have been a pain in the neck if suddenly I just want to put a line in. Oh, I've got to spend 10 minutes changing the pen over. So I'm sure. I tell you what, I'd probably end up doing MTS, and that is like when you peel an apple. It's trying to. I know you were stretching one out the other night. It would be trying to get the longest possible single shaving out of it that you could. Oh, the Christmas prezzies. Some people are very lucky, Claire. Yeah. That I'd kind of want to do something is in a darker wood then, but the problem is you get less shades. Because a lot of the African woods are relatively dark. They're a nice bronzy brown, aren't they? They're quite a nice dark, but they're a darkish sort of colour. Yeah, that's probably the way to go about it. Is go to a club, or go to there's, well, I won't say they're nearby, but there's a couple of shops that cater for the for woodworking and wood turning, where they do sort of demonstrations and lessons and so probably the good idea would be to go to sort of one of those and do a lesson or two, and then find out. Who from Turkey? Not from me, and hopefully not from Claire. And yeah. Well, of course, the idea of the lesson would be to use their equipment to try it. Yeah, okay, Claire. Unfortunately, I've probably not done any pyrography for about the past 10-15 minutes, but we are actually, unfortunately, at my wrapping up time. And I'm quite pleased with the progress I've made tonight. I need to just taper that off a little bit. Let's see if we can just lose the hard edge on there. That's better. I've lost. I could see the transition. I've now lost that transition. I've still got a little bit here, but that's okay. We got a shadow, so I kind of expect that. But I've lost that one. That was coming down here. It sort of was a line that I didn't want to see, and I've got that. No, I don't mind that empty. I like that, to be honest, and it's a heck of a lot nicer to broadcast when you're getting that sort of interaction, and we can talk about whatever. I mean, the art stuff is nice and preferable, shall we say, but it is nice to have. Sorry, Claire, I've just seen your message earlier, but a wood turny thing. It's called a lathe, but yeah, a wood turny thing. Oh, but yeah, I missed that kind of, so. But no, I love talking with you guys and people like yourself, MTS, and Claire, who do, and everybody else who does amazing artwork. It's fun. It's fun to talk about your art and things. Yeah, that transition's a bit sharp as well. Yeah, I've got to watch. One of the things I have to watch when I change pens is that I don't leave it at the high setting by accident, and then I suddenly touch this and I've got the cloud of smoke. Yep, no, I like that. I think I'm going to leave. I'm going to leave it at that for tonight. I think. Let's turn the heat off there before I forget about it. I think tomorrow I am kind of procrastinating on doing the ear, which means I don't really want to do the ear, which probably means that's what I'll do tomorrow. We've got to get some very silky, fine hair around the edge, and then some really sort of tangled, fluffy hair around there. Before I move on to the mane, I haven't decided how to do the mane. I can do it using long hair strokes like this, but using long strokes, or I can use it with the shader, using it flat, and create, if you like, almost like thicker clumps of hair, which is kind of how you do it when you're using a shader. You create like clumps, and as you do multiple passes, the overlaps cause variations in tone, and it starts to look like a lot finer hair than it at first sounds like when you're using a wide stroke. I half think though I'm probably going to do that and then think it's not not looking right, and I'll probably start to do some of the fur texture in it, but we shall see. This area just under his chin is quite dark as well, so I might do that first. Again, I'm procrastinating, avoiding doing the ear. I can always tell the bits that I think are going to be hardest because they're the ones I keep leaving until I get to the point where I'm going to do it anyway. That's me in 2 years. I don't know about that, MTS. I know I said I'm likely to get a larger studio, but I'm also quite likely to have carpet on the studio floor. So I'm not sure there'll be a lathe going in there, to be honest. Good evening, Creams, and welcome. And I fully intend to actually have cars in the garage, so and the one thing about having the large studio is that I didn't have to have a shed outside, which of course would be cold in winter. It's not great for machinery, as you know. It's better to have it in a dryish environment. You know what we ought to do, MTS, is you do the bowls and I'll do the pyrography. It's a pity we're not somewhat closer. Could go into a joint venture. It is indeed, MTS, but I'm guessing I'll probably fill it. It's a very bad joke in the title, Creams. That's the idea. Although I must admit, I only tonight did I think of a second thing in there. You know, the what do I call it? Lying about doing not much. Of course, there's lion or lying. There's two words, two meanings of the word lying. So dream big. Ah dear. What do I do? Pyrography, scraper board, carving, rotary carving, punchcraft, the chainmail. I do airbrushing, not on stream. I do the rotary carving. I do rug making, cross stitch. I do some beadwork now. I've got set over there some fusible beads, and I'm sure I've still on something else. I don't have time to get a lathe. Yeah, that's a good one, Creams. I like that. Okay, you definitely win. You definitely win. I might change my stream title tomorrow then and nick some of those, a couple of those ideas there. Yep, and I'm sure we probably would, MTS. Although I probably wouldn't end up doing much because I'd be watching you do that stuff so much. I love craftsman work like that. Well, any craftsman at work, it's absolutely fascinating to watch. Unfortunately, Creams, though, you caught the end of the stream. You know, it's 8 till 10 for me. Okay, guys. I've had a wonderful evening, and I hope you've enjoyed being in the stream as well. I am, of course, I've got to do it. I've got to remind anybody that's watching that hasn't taken a look at the shop to take a look at the shop. I think there's some lovely stuff in there. Unfortunately, that train isn't in there, but that's an example of stuff that I have done on stream. The shop at the moment is just the jewellery items. Proceeds of which will help with the stream. No. I've done 24-hour stuff in the past for one of my other hobbies as a radio amateur. It's hard work. And nah. I'm quite happy not to do a 24-hour stream. Um, Coffee doesn't affect me that way, MTS. I quite often, well, I used to have a coffee just before I went to bed because it helped me go to sleep. Yeah, you're right. Too old for that. I highly suspect creams I'd probably end up with a migraine headache, so it's not something I'd want to encourage. So I'm not, wouldn't be doing that. At the moment, 2 hours is about as much time as I can spare to stream. Maybe in a little bit we might get to doing some UK time, sort of at the weekends during the day, which would be sort of like 4 hours in the afternoon, something like that. Might be a bit early for you, MTS, but and the Americans, but unfortunately at the moment, just time doesn't allow for anything more than about 2 hours. I can't sleep for 24 hours. I wake up really horrible if I sleep more than about 10. Anyway, unfortunately, I'm going to say to anybody who's watching that isn't following, and thank you to those guys that have followed this evening. If you are watching and not following, not quite sure I understand why, but that's okay. But if you'd like to, push the follow button. I appreciate it, as do most other streamers. If you like also just to get a notification, you can get that from Twitter. Follow me at Zaragonart. The details for that are below the stream window. They will be on the end plate in a moment as well. If you want other people to check out, there's at least MTS Wood here, who is an excellent streamer. Does lathe work, wood-based lathe work, bowls and vases and things like that. Absolutely fascinating to watch, and a great guy for explaining what he's doing. And I'm not sure if you're going to go be streaming today, MTS, but if you are, keep an eye out for him. Apart from that, thank you all. I shall be back on tomorrow about 8 PM UK time, 2000 hours UTC stroke GMT, same time at the moment, and otherwise about 2.25 hours ago it was 8 o'clock, so you can do the maths in your own time zone. Thanks all, and see you again in the future. Have a good evening. Bye bye.